So, first question I have is what is the exact title of your job and how many years have you held your job?
Okay. This year I am an eighth grade science teacher. This will be my first year at that grade level. But I last year I had a seventh grade science, and the 5 previous years before that, I was a secondary science teacher for a private school. So I taught high school and middle school science classes.
I got you. So, in total, how many years would that be?
I have uh I have 6 finished years, getting ready to start year 7.
I got you. So, where do you teach at? Like, what is the name of the school?
Yeah, I'm at the Giroux Center. It's part of Benjamin Franklin Middle School in Franklin County.
I got you. Um, so, what is your educational experience?
Education, I have my bachelor's degree, um, a bachelor's of science. My major was biology with minors in chemistry and secondary education.
What made you gravitate towards majoring in that and then becoming a science teacher? Like, is there anything that stood out in your life that made those plans come
Yeah,
about?
yeah, definitely. When I started at Ferrum, I was hoping to be a veterinarian. So I was going to do my 4 years and get that bio background and then look at furthering the education process on that. But I took vertebrate zoology and just memorizing all those bones and the dissections were cool, but it was just all that memorizing. And I thought, oh my gosh, but this is what veterinarians do. Like, it was cool to get an idea, but it kind of became overwhelming. And I said, okay, I like science, but do I want to do, 6, 7 more years of school? So I've always liked working with kids and doing camps. I coach soccer too. So I realized, I really like working with the youth and young people. So I just took some education classes early on and kind of clicked well.
I
So
got
did
you.
that.
So did you actually play soccer at Ferrum?
Yeah, I did.
That's cool. So obviously you report to somebody. Is that just one person or is it multiple people? Like example, principal, do you have to report to the principal or?
Yeah, everybody has their principal, and then you usually have a grade level head. Um, so like there's probably now with my school, the Giroux Center is only eighth grade there, because Franklin County's got only one middle school and there's so many kids there. So half of eighth grade goes to one campus and the other half comes to my building. So I bet we just report to our building principal, but then the whole Benjamin Franklin has another principal above there. So I guess my superior reports to the head principal that's at the other campus. But then where I'm a new teacher to the county, last year I taught in a different county. So this year where I have to kind of be considered a new teacher. I'll have what do they call them? Like a supervisor, just because like I'm new, so it'll be another teacher teaching my same subject, almost like a mentor. That's the word. So I'll probably report to my mentor first with any problems, and then if we can't figure it out together, then we'd go higher up the chain.
I got you. So it's kind of like you have to work your way up the
Yeah,
long.
there's room. Yeah, like after your first year, then you don't usually have to report to a mentor once you've got a year or two under you. Um, each year too, teachers have so many years where they have to get reviewed also. So I guess if your review process went poorly, you might end up going backwards. But usually, for the most part, once you've got that year under your belt, you just kind of maintain, and all the teachers kind of are on the same field, except you might have a mentor here, or you might have, like at the high school, let's say all the biology teachers are there, you might have one head biology teacher that goes to like specific meetings with other contents, but you volunteer for that position. So
I got you. Um,
yes.
so obviously you've been a teacher for a while. What would you say is the best part about being a teacher for you?
Part, let's see, being with the kids definitely is the most fun. They keep you on your toes. make you laugh, but they also drive you crazy. So, but they're fun to be with. And that's why it's actually been really hard with this, being distance learning and stuff. When we started that in March, that was the hard part. It was like, man, I mean, we did some Google Meets and did some virtual stuff, but it made it tough. So hopefully we can be able to meet and get together soon. But that's the fun part. I think that's most teachers, they'd say it's being with the kids, spending time with them. I like creating the lessons too. That part's really fun. Just kind of saying, okay, here's what I have to teach them, but how can I make that fun? Like, how do I get a bunch of 8th graders who don't care about atoms, get them to at least enjoy what we're doing?
Yeah, I'm sure that's hard when you have electronic classes where they can be distracted easily. That was actually my next question was, how has COVID-19 affected your job?
Yeah, it parts got less stressful, but other parts got more stressful. Like, you didn't have to get up as early and you kind of could work around your own schedule, but it it was a lot of, especially where it just kind of happened abruptly. We had, we have some kids that get the home support, but you have others that have very little support at home. And so it's, how do you get the kids to do work when there's no accountability at home? And so there was some of that too, just having to call home and say, look, you got to do something. You got to show you're working. And so I think if we have to start school that way in September, hopefully where everybody already knows that that's the route we're going, kids will be, more on track of their assignments. But we'll see.
Yeah, I'm sure it's hard also because not all students have Wi-Fi or internet access at home.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially in a rural county like Franklin County.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did do really good about every student got a Chromebook. So that was cool. At least everybody had a device. And then I know my husband was at the high school this year, and he had to contact his homeroom kids, and every teacher did that. And then they put in a list of kids who didn't have Wi-Fi. And so then they got teachers to put all their document assignments in the Google Drive, and then they could just download them onto those kids' devices. So then they'd assign, like, Johnny, here's your device, and your stuff's already downloaded on it. So that way they didn't have to have Wi-Fi. But that took a few weeks to get them ready. So they tried to do it. It's tough.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a rough, learning experience almost. Because
yeah, how did you do over at FAM?
We went to all online classes and I hated it.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm more of an in-person type of learner.
Right.
And I thought I was very tech savvy until we got home and I realized that I wasn't.
Oh.
So it's been a learning. I think I learned a lot, and my professors definitely learned a lot about the electronical side of, because most of the stuff at Ferrum is small classes, the professor, but it's harder to do it at home because like you said, I mean, you sleep later and then by that time you're like, I don't know if I want to do it today.
Yeah. That PS4 looks pretty good over there on the couch.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to procrastinate.
Mm.
So you kind of have to hold yourself accountable, like you were talking about. So I have two more questions for you, and then I'll end the recording. What would you say is before all this happened, what is a con that you had about your job?
With teaching, some things could be looked at as there's no really moving up. Like if you go to the private sector, you have different levels and you can move up for getting raises or, getting more of a higher, a job title. With teaching, you're the teacher, and unless you want to go get more degrees and become a principal, there's really no steps up. Eventually with the number of years you have, the pay does increase, but there's no, there's no big titles, no moving up the ladder. that could be considered a negative. Well, before COVID hit, large class sizes at the public schools, I'd say, were cons. They just cram a ton of kids, and it's hard to get to know the kids and individualize the work for them. Um, uh, the way that, hopefully maybe this will change, the way that testing is set up, the SOLs, there's cons to that too. You feel constrained to that test, and you got to cram so much information into it at one time. I mean, you've taken them, like your teacher feels pressured to be like, oh, you got to get all this knowledge in before this date so you can take the test. And then after the test is done, you're like, oh, what else do we have to do? Like, we don't have to be here, right?
It's kind of like busy work after that.
Yeah. So I'm hoping maybe they'll see, like, because this year nobody took them. The way COVID hit in March, nobody took them in spring. So I'm wonder if they're going to be like, oh, you don't necessarily need that every year. Like, there's other ways to measure knowledge. So we'll see.
Yeah, I definitely am not a fan of SOLs with like you have standardized testing and all that, because I feel like some students don't learn as much as they should. Okay,
Yeah.
final question. What is some advice to people that would want to get into the job that you currently hold?
Advice, definitely going to Ferrum is something I tell high school kids. If they want to be teachers, Ferrum's the place to go, because you go to those education classes, you start those internships at EDU 202. Like that very first class, you're in the classrooms observing actual teachers with actual kids. And then every education class after that, you still have those hours of internship times, but you get more and more responsibilities. So that really helped to be like, oh, this is what I want to do. Or it really helps be like, oh yeah, this is not what I want to do. And you can learn it really early, so you don't waste, 2 and 3 semesters trying to figure it out. You just know, and you're like, okay. And then you can kind of switch gears. So Ferrum really helped a lot, because the big schools, Tech, UVA, if you go to education, you're in the classroom like with your professor, and that's it. And then you do your student teaching, and it's like, what if you didn't like it? Now you're a senior. So, and then it helped with building connections. Like then when I was able to graduate, when I did my applications, it was like I could apply to Franklin County if I wanted to, and be like, oh, I already know this teacher, and they could help kind of pull me in. And I mean, that really helped at my job interview. When I switched back to Franklin County, it was easy to already know who was sitting across the table, because she was my principal when I did some internships. So that helped a lot. But even going to other counties, I think they appreciate, like, oh, you're in the classroom that much. That helps a lot.
Yeah, I feel like a smaller school would be better, like is better for the teaching standpoint, because you learn how to get that one-on-one experience with certain students that need it. And it's easier to connect, I feel like.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to end the recording.